And from what I've also researched, that Paul Studio works in an extensive range of categories, right, from electrical to kitchenware, furniture, and toys, and many more. So my question to you is that among all of these categories, when you're trying to give a signature touch and an identity to your product, so what is the prime influence that you leave on the minds of your users?
See, as I said, a prime objective is that to create that stickiness of the idea, and it's very simple actually. When you design something, if you have only one point focus, like for example, if there's a product and you notice only one thing about it, you'll always remember it. But if it is too much of a thing happening in a product, you will probably forget it after a point in time. Right. So we try to always create that one focal point in a product which would have that sticky factor in the end user.
Sandeep Paul is one of the most influential designers in the Indian product design fraternity. And today it's been our honor to have him on this podcast conversation. As someone who has designed over 700 plus products across the globe, Paul lives by the ideology that there has to be a firm relationship between the product and the user. He looks in between the everyday objects, provides solutions to hurdles, and instills life within them. His simplistic approach, amalgamated with style and reinvention of the obvious with a whole new perspective, truly amazes me. The designpreneur has won prestigious Red Dot Design Award twice and is also a 3 times TEDx speaker. Join into this power-packed episode, and I assure you there's a lot to learn from this one. Welcome to our Town podcast series, sir. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Samiksha, for having me here.
Yeah, and I hope you're in good health and you're doing well.
So far, so good.
So
So far, so good.
glad to know, sir. And before we begin, I would like to ask you that how are you coping up with the second wave of pandemic and how has it affected the work at Paul Studio?
Well, that's a very nice and a very interesting question because at Paul Studio, our modus operandi is very, very different from rest of the other studios because here we are, the core designers are actually me and my wife, right? And the rest of the other people who are associated with us on projects, they're all independent consultants. So you could say the work-wise, there is no difference to us before pandemic or during the pandemic. The way we work is still the same.
Oh, that's great. That's actually a wonderful way of working.
Yes, because we work out of two places. Like physically, I work out of Pune as well as Delhi. So currently, I would say that okay, I'm restricted to Pune for the while, for the time being. Although, yeah, because I'm not traveling to Delhi, but otherwise, work-wise, we work for clients across 18 countries. So most of the clients we've been working were already online platform, and what has happened good is that the Indian clients have started understanding that work can happen online.
Right, right. That's wonderful, sir. And it is a difficult time, but we're going to get past through this. And your method of working is really great that you can like work with. You can still work in such situations that you're capable of. The system is capable of that. And moving on to our actual conversation, to start with, could you briefly introduce yourself in your own words?
Well, I could say I'm a designer of everyday objects, and I try to work on the wow factor and try to create interesting user experiences in the physical world. I think that's what I could say about myself.
That's great. And like, I have read about you earlier. So, you were an engineer and a cartoonist earlier before, like, you figured out that you wanted to be a product designer, right?
Yes.
So, what was it that attracted you towards product design initially?
See, actually, all the while, I was never interested in taking up a profession just for the heck of it, but I was trying to express myself to different mediums, right? So when I was a cartoonist, I was actually a professional cartoonist. I used to have a regular pocket column. in one of the newspapers in Maharashtra. It's called the Lokmat Times. I had a pocket column called Not As You See. So what I was doing as a cartoonist was actually trying and observe everyday life and make fun of it and make sarcastic remarks and draw illustrations, basically mockery of the situation, but nothing beyond that. So I'll just share a small anecdote with you. What happened was that while I was working in the newspapers, it was during my final year of engineering. So while I was studying engineering, I was also working in the night shift for this newspaper. And it was a night shift, so it was from 8 o'clock in the evening to 3:30 a.m. in the morning. So while I was coming back, I observed very often the newspaper boys rolling up the newspapers and heading out for delivery, and they would actually throw the newspapers onto different heights of the apartments, and that I felt was a very difficult task for them to do. And then the engineer in me started thinking that can I find a solution to this, and that is how I created my first product without knowing that this is called product design. It was a newspaper launcher, and that was awarded in it won the first prize in a design competition which was held at Kits Ramtek. It's another engineering college which had I think hosted it. It was called Technodion. It was a nationwide contest where students from various engineering colleges across the country had come, and so there I had presented that idea, and it won the first prize. So that was the point where I realized that okay, my observations as a cartoonist can be converted into useful products for the society.
Right.
And then I got to know about that okay, there is NID, National Institute of Design, which is actually a very premier institute, and you could go there and study design. And that's how I went to NID and did my post graduation in industrial design after completing my electrical engineering. So that's the way I kind of happened to become an industrial designer.
That's amazing, sir. And your story is very inspirational, especially for those students who probably think it's too late to figure out, fear to take a decisive career turn in life. But you followed your passion back then, and now you're enjoying what you're doing.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So how is this journey? So how is this journey in product design since you graduated from NID till date been for you?
See, I'll tell you again at NID, it was more of kind of exploring your innate capabilities and trying to identify the real you within yourself. You know, because design is something which cannot be read from a book. It has to be the concepts have to be experienced in your real life. Right. So I think those years of being there at NID, and also another interesting thing, NID being a very multidisciplinary institution, they had 11 streams running at that point in time, back in 2002 when I was there. So we had the opportunity to also take a peep into the film studio, into the graphic design studio, into the animation design studio, and the textile. So it was a very multidisciplinary learning for me at NID. And after that, I joined LG Electronics. I was hired by LG Electronics in India and for their Seoul operations. So that's how I got into I would say home appliance design. And over the next decade, then I would design most of the best-selling products for LG. The top-loading washing machine, which you see in the market, since 2006 has been designed by me. Refrigerators, microwave ovens, lot many products for LG. And after that, I realized that, in fact, all this while, my wife, who happens to be my classmate from engineering, had also joined in NID a year later. So, and she's a toy designer. So she was doing her own, design consultancy on her own. And then I decided, let's come together, and both of us together, let's start Paul Studio and offer our services to the industry. And why restrict myself to only one company when I could offer my services to many? So that's how Paul Studio was kind of established in 2013, I would say, officially. but we've been working together in projects on and off since 2005. And yeah, so that's how it's been. It's been really rewarding with over 700 products out in the market. It's really very satisfying.
Beautiful, sir. Beautiful. That's an incredible journey, I would say. And further talking about your work, a lot of project products that I've observed that you've designed at Paul Studio are innovative solutions to redefine everyday objects. So it's sort of like most of them come out of observation. So how do you go about this process? Like, do you essentially find problems associated with the product?
Uh, Let me show you with an example. Uh,
Sure.
this is a product which is one of the best sellers on Amazon. It's a Angular Multipla, right? Now, before this product existed, all the other products were flat on the top, flat on the front, and flat on the bottom, right? And what I had observed was that the two pin plugs would get loose after some time and fall off. It happens if you notice very carefully. And it's a very nagging problem, right? So the idea was, can we add an angle of 40-degree and create a gravity lock instead? So that's a very small observation and a very small change in the way the product is designed. And again, introducing the translucent orange, which again became very attractive at that point in time. And people started noticing this product. And I think this is one of the greatest examples of how simply you could solve a problem and you create a new category of a product altogether. It's been really doing well for the brand since 2004.
Yeah. Does yeah, that's a wonderful project, and like some of your projects, like most of your projects have come out of such observations, and that is really wonderful. And like, do you also consider improving the user experience of the like user experience associated with the product?
We only focus on the user experience, I would say. The manifestation of the idea takes form only when we are happy with the experience we are able to give through that product. And at times, we tend to create a solution which you might not even register, but over a period of time, you become so much used to that product or habituated that you will not use any other product. Like once people have started using this product, they never went back to the original, the other kind of multiplugs. So I would say the kind of experience we're trying to create is kind of, I would say, more sticky in nature, where once you use it, you don't know why you like it, but you keep on using it until it becomes you habituated to it. And if you look at the benefit point of view from a manufacturer's point of view, then you've got a product which will be very very easy to sell, and it will be selling for a longest period of time, because then people are habituated of using that. So it works both ways. The manufacturer is happy, the brand is happy because they've invested in the product and they can really mint money out of it. And the consumer is also very happy because they're getting a product which solves their everyday life problem. And yeah, so that's the way to look at it.
That's a very interesting approach. Also, like you mentioned, and I've heard in your TEDx talks that you talk about habituation. So, could you break down the concept of habituation for us?
Uh, See, habituation is something which stops us from thinking of a problem as a problem. We take it as status quo, that okay, this is supposed to be the way it is, right? And what happens is that we tend to not see those small lagging problems. We have this attitude of chalta hai. The chalta hai attitude comes from being habituated. And I am a person who is questioning all the time, why is it this way, why isn't the other way, right? How could we improve upon things? So I always challenge, and even when I'm given a project, I always talk to my I would say rather inform my clients that beware, because I'm going to ask you very silly questions probably which you wouldn't have asked for the last 25 years also, because you've gotten habituated to your way of working. But if you bring me into the project, I'm going to challenge those notions, and I'm going to question every little thing which I feel is important. And they've been benefited from those kind of that approach of design, because I'm a newcomer then, and I always perform better if I haven't worked on that project before. Like if I were to design a pen and I haven't designed it before, I would do my best when I do it for the first time, because then I'm completely clean. I'm a clean slate. I'm not habituated to the industry norms or the way things happen in that industry. So I think that is what is all about, breaking the habituation concept, and trying to think afresh all the time.
Yes. And also questioning abilities somewhere missing in this in these times, and questioning what we are habituated to is very important. And so I'm also intrigued to know that how do you come up with observations, innovation, and you also have a unique sense of style with every new product. Like you've designed around 700 plus products, as you said. So how do you constantly innovate?
See, I think I would say it's the survival instinct, and that is what my USP is. That each time a client approaches us and we make sure they are blown away with the presentation, and they're pretty sure that what they're investing into will fetch them good returns. So for that, there are no shortcuts. So every project has to be some level of innovation, and doesn't have to be rocket science. I always say, and especially for young designers to know this, that most of the times we wait for a bigger opportunity to come by, and then we will showcase our skills, our talents, our idea. Please do not do that. Every small opportunity is an opportunity to create an impact, right? So it's very important that we focus on incremental innovation. We might see, we're not all geniuses, we're not all great scientists, we're not inventors, but we can participate. As creative people, we can participate. So that's what I'm trying to do with my limited IQ. I'm trying to participate with my efforts and create incremental changes. And what I've seen over a period of 16 years, those incremental changes which I've brought in have actually been able to build my reputation in the industry, that I'm a guy who creates innovative products. So I didn't wait for a big break, but I started with very small ideas, trying to push them into market and get them into production. I think that is what I would urge young designers also to keep this in mind.
Yeah, for something to achieve great, you have to start somewhere and keep doing so that you become great at some point of time. And what you said is a very practical thought, and it's a very beautiful way that you put it. And from what I've also researched, that Paul Studio works in an extensive range of categories, right, from electrical to kitchenware, furniture, and toys, and many more. So my question to you is that among all of these categories, when you're trying to give a signature touch and an identity to your product, so what is the prime influence that you leave on the minds of your users?
See, as I said, a prime objective is that to create that stickiness of the idea, and it's very simple actually. When you design something, if you have only one point focus, like for example, if there's a product and you notice only one thing about it, you'll always remember it. But if it is too much of a thing happening in a product, you will probably forget it after a point in time, right? So we try to always create that one focal point in a product, which would have that sticky factor in the end user's mind. And one, for example, if you see any of our designs, if you see it, you will never forget it. So that's the thing we try to create in every project. And we've worked in 121 categories. And yeah, so it's been amazing. It's been an amazing journey so far.
So, do you consider simplicity as your key factor for the users to sort of remember it forever?
I would say voluntary simplicity. We call it voluntary simplicity. And we try to reduce it to a level where you can't rip off anymore. You can't take away anymore. We try to bring it down to the essence of its being. So we call it voluntary simplicity, and yeah, so I think yeah, that's about it.
That is that is very insightful, sir. And also, I would like to ask you that what is it that you personally like working on the most amongst all the sorted categories?
Well, I don't know if I sound uh, during the pandemic. Actually, a lot of new opportunities have come across,
Yeah.
and
For designers, I'm
I would
sure it
say,
has been.
yeah, because since we keep a very positive outlook towards life, and personally, I am a very optimistic person. So every opportunity we've tried to create a solution. Like when the first mass migration happened last year, I was struck with an idea of creating a very cost-effective thermal sensor, which I had patented also in the same during the lockdown itself. And eventually, we uh, built that utility into a product which we are working on. I'll show you the product. This is a product. This is a smart sensor. So I'm very excited about smart sensors and contactless devices these days. This project is very interesting because when the client approached us, they wanted us to create, a device which would have some sensor. This is a motion sensor.
Oh,
Okay, this is a motion sensor. But then the way we designed it, and the best part of this project was that we were able to engage ourselves in the design and the positioning of the elements in the PCB also. So my electrical engineering knowledge probably gave the client more confidence in them that I could handle the layouting of the PCB as well. And so what happened is that when we designed this product, now there are 16 variants which can be easily created out of this product only by changing this front part. So the investment is so very low, but the number of variants which can be created easily is immense, and that only happened because they allowed us to actually work at the heart of the product and then create the enclosure suiting the heart of the product. So I'm thrilled with the opportunities which are opening up uh, due to the pandemic thing. So yeah, so it's been interesting times
that's
actually,
great.
very interesting times.
Yeah, I am for designers and like product designers around all like around. This time has been really very like it has given time for ideating and sort of being productive. The pandemic time has been really productive
See, I'll tell
for
you
most of
why.
the designers.
I'll tell you why. What's happening is that in most of the bigger companies or the small scale companies also, since the factories are not operating to 100% capacity, the productions are low. So what they're doing is they are trying to see the future and be prepared for the future and investing their time and resources in creating newer products. So I would say the pandemic has actually, I would say, speeded up the process of product development. In any case, we always believed in frugal resources. So we've been able to, service our clients in the most frugal manner, yet in the most effective manner. So we've got the products launched in time, and yeah, so like for example, I said now this product was not intended to have a temperature sensor in it, like a thermal sensor, IR sensor. But now this product also has a variant of an IR sensor. So we're trying to do these things along the way and trying to make best use of the times we are in.
That's great. That's great. And it's also motivational for us that this time should be utilized really wisely. And moving on, you've won numerous awards so far, including the prestigious Red Dot Design Award twice. And I'm sure you'll agree that it is also important for students like us to participate in competitions apart from academics. So I would like to ask you that has it also helped you in your earlier stages?
See, competition does two things to you. One is it helps you improve yourself among your peer group. That okay, and also it keeps you on the edge of everything. You want to be the best all the time. So I think participating in competition is very important. It doesn't matter if the award is recognized in your current scenario. For example, the time when I won the Red Dot in India, there were hardly anyone who knew about Red Dot, right? But then of course it helped me gain international popularity and fetch international projects because Red Dot was known worldwide, but now in Indian context also people are getting to are aware of the award, and so companies are also are participating in awards. So yeah, it's good to see, and it's always good to participate and keep yourself sharp, sharpened at every stage of your career. So it's not restricted to students only; it applies to us as well.
That's great. And it's a very important piece of advice that you gave, sir. And as we've come towards the end of our conversation, on a closing note, I would like to ask you, as an industrial designer, how do you foresee the future of design? Like with the pandemic coming up into the picture and a lot more technological advancements in distant future.
See, I think for industrial designers, the future is very, very bright and lucrative because of the focus of also the government's focus in make in India and design in India, things and initiatives. Yeah, and the Indian manufacturing sectors are also looking towards enabling themselves. So definitely, Indian designers, especially product designers, will be on high demand. And the only advice to product designers is to stick around with product design. Don't move to UX design because we need product designers.
Yeah, right. And that's like out of this conversation, there are quite a lot of insights to take away. In saying that, I would like to ask you on a closing note that what advice would you like to give a young designer who you were maybe 10 years back?
I think I can only share, my thoughts and my beliefs, and which has actually helped me, pave my path. Is that you don't have to walk the path of any other designer, and you don't have to follow anyone else's design process. And another thing is that you need to focus on what you do best. What is your core competency? Do not get swayed by the current state of affairs in terms of what jobs you'll get, what salary packages you can be offered. Please do not focus on that. If you focus on your core competency and try to create a niche for yourself, people will come chasing you. I think that's what my advice to young designers would be.
Beautiful, sir, beautiful. And from what you said, I also remember a quote from Gita that try to follow your own path with imperfection than to follow someone else's journey with perfection. So, yeah, that's that. And it was an amazing conversation, sir. And it was a pleasure talking to you. And I'm sure our listeners also have a lot to gain from this conversation. So, thank you for joining us, sir, and thank you for giving us your time.
Thank you, Sameksha. It was wonderful talking to you this afternoon.
Congratulations to all of you who made it till the end. Thank you for listening to this episode, and I really hope you liked it. If you did, please leave us a review on our YouTube comment section. And if you come up with any questions while listening to this podcast, you can add a comment on Instagram or YouTube, and we will get back to you and help you as much as possible. You can find us on Instagram or our website by the name arttown.store. So do connect with us. We're truly excited to converse with you.